This is Treblinka. This is the monumental part. The death camp itself was actually bigger than the monumental part we can see here. There are stones which are largely in the forest, which mark what was believed to be the perimeter when this monument was built in 1964. As it turned out, it wasn't exactly correct. But the camp itself, we've got this clearing in the forest, and so the camp itself was a bit bigger than this because it included parts of what the forest is now here and also on the other side as well. But at its widest point, it was no more than 500 meters wide, and in this point some 900,000 people were killed, and they were killed above all in a more or less a 1 year period, although July the 23rd 1942 to August 43, the last people to be murdered here was at the beginning of November of 43, but that was the people who actually worked here. I'll do a separate video on the last person, the last killing at Treblinka. I've already talked about the first in a different video. These stones represent places for which the victims came. In some cases we see the complete destruction of the Jewish community there. In most cases, in some places we even see the complete destruction of everybody who lived there. Some places I don't know where they are. Okay, well, Marki, that's just outside Warsaw. There's a big shopping centre there. But this place here, got a lounge yeshuv. Unless the name's changed, I don't know where it is. So I thought what I'd do in this video is I'll take you around a little bit of, and I'll talk about it. Now, if I was going to the stones, now logically, the way of doing this would be to walk down here and walk around like that behind the monument, then come here and go down there. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to walk just down here because here there are more places I think that I know about and I can talk about. Here the stones represent places in Poland as it was before the invasions of 1939, and so start Narew, Sidra, Ola. Ola's in the Białystok region. There's Białystok. Białystok was one of the largest Jewish communities in Poland, and it was also represented the last large community to be destroyed here. There was a rebellion in the ghetto in Białystok, and as there was in Warsaw. Is another place, incidentally, Siemiatyce was also a rebellion there. So we have Warsaw, the second largest Jewish community in the world, second only to New York in size. And bear in mind that New York, the Jews who went to America, because of the wave. Sorry, I'm speaking Polish. The wave of racism that existed in Russia, and Przedborz. Now we've got one that's devoted to the martyrs of the Warsaw Ghetto. It seems a bit odd. Pruszków had a population which was based, it was a railway town, but unlike a railway town for communications, Pruszków was a railway town because that's the place where the railways were repaired. This huge repair facility which is there, which in 1944 became a transit camp for people who were being forced to leave Warsaw. Anyway, I've done a video on that as well. Huge area. In Pruszków, the people there were able to bribe the German commander of the area, the local authority, and so that actually stopped the ghetto being formed there, a closed ghetto being formed there. The ghetto in Pruszków, though, was dissolved in February 1941, and the people were sent to Warsaw. And that, bear in mind that Warsaw had to take these refugees in at the same time as the ghetto boundaries were actually made harder, made smaller. Anyway, Dąbrowa Białostocka, Skarżyszew, Małogoszcz, Węgrów. Węgrów is located very close to here. In fact, it's certainly cycling distance. It's that close. It isn't the closest place here. I think the closest is Małkinia, which is actually mentioned on a stone. Bielsko Podlaski, Kuźnica Białostocka, which is today a border. There was the trains used to go into the Soviet Union from there. I think the train line's probably now being closed. Choroszcz, which is in the direction also in Białystok. Grudek Białostocki. Raciąż, Śniadowo, Jeżów, Łomża. Łomża, also quite a large Jewish community there. There's Koluszki. Koluszki is located to the east of Łódź. It's a railway town, in this case because of communications. It's a railway town because the railway line between Warsaw and Silesia, Katowice or Krakow even. I'm not saying Krakow, no, sorry, it's not right, but Warsaw and Silesia, Katowice passed through Koluszki, and a branch line was made to Łódź, which was getting bigger and bigger, and that went through Koluszki. I've done a video on that place. In fact, whilst I was doing the video on Koluszki, broke my camera. I was putting the gimbal and it broke. Międzyrzecz Podlaski. Here at Międzyrzec, this was one of the remaining ghettos, rest ghetto, which was set up to try and get those, to force people to live towards 1943. And if you read Christopher Browning's book on 101, Police Battalion 101, I've forgotten the name, something men. Oh yeah, how embarrassing. I just read it again last week. Anyway, it'll come back to me as soon as I finish. Normal men or something. Ordinary men, that's it. And you have these horrendous reports of how these people were killed at Międzyrzec, and they were shot largely. Some people were also brought here by train. But that was 1943. That was amongst the last deportations. There's Kotsk. Kotsk, there was one of the last battles of the campaign of 1939. And at Kotsk, there's a house which still stands. It was the house of the rabbi. He was killed in an air raid on or around 17th of September 1939. A very attractive house. Śniadowo, Radom. Radom is an industrial town, from weapons manufacture amongst other things. And Radom, the ghetto was divided. There was even two ghettos in Radom. Radom was one of the capitals of the general government. So Warsaw was one, Radom was another, Lublin was another, Krakow was another, and Lvov was the fifth one, which was added in 1941. Przesucha, Jasjonówka, Gniewoszów, Miliejczyce, Blizin, Półtusk. Półtusk's north of Warsaw. Very attractive place to visit, Półtusk, in my opinion. Knyszyn, Kozienice. Kozienice was one of the places where the Soviets crossed the River Istula in 1944. Of course, by then the Jewish population was dead. Dęblin is not so far from Kozienice, but it's on the other side of the river. That's on the eastern bank. Today noted for the Air Force Base, which is there. Wasyłków, Białawska. Białawska has this as a town. I'd say the central part of it it still has a very Jewish feeling to it when you drive through. Stoczek, Powiat Sokołowy, so it must be near here. Falenica near Warsaw. Zvolin, the oldest man in the world at one stage. Obviously this changes very frequently, but must have been about 10 years ago. He was from Zvolin. He died in Israel, and he was sent to the Łódź ghetto. I think he was well into his 30s though when he went to the Łódź ghetto. I can't remember how old he was. I mean, if he was the oldest man in the world, I presume he died at the age of around 114, 115, 116. Radziłów. Łaszkarze. Naszelsk is a railway town to the north of Warsaw. A friend in Israel from there. Grajewo. Now this here, Grajewo's quite curious because Grajewo was located very close to the German border, but with East Prussia. And Grajewo, despite its closeness to the German border, was one of these areas which was handed over to the Soviets in 1939. Now, the large part of Poland was handed over to the Soviets in 1939, but there was a deal to give Lithuania to Soviet Union and a larger part of Poland to Nazi Germany. So anyway, so Grajewo just wasn't one of those that actually went back, went to the German side. Though it was conquered in the September campaign by Nazis. In about 3,000 Jewish people from there, they were sent to another place first, Tromki or something like that. I can't quite remember what it was now, and I think it was quite expensive. Quite an attractive place to visit. And my visit, this journey, I was planning on going there. Sowiatyce, Starachowice, which is in the Kielce region, Świętokrzyski region. That Jewish community there. There's quite a large amount of Jewish people from Starachowice who survived. The reason for this is because they were they had to work on the armaments plants which were built there during the Second Polish Republic, so in the interwar period. And although many of them were later deported to Auschwitz, it happened so late in the war. Having said that, I mean, anywhere with, say, 20% survival rate, that's a high survival rate. It's effectively, approximately 90%, or in excess of 90% of the Jewish population of Poland was murdered. And a very large percentage of which was murdered here. Trzecianne, there we are, Goniaj, Jedwabne. At Jedwabne, there was a Jewish community. On 2nd of July, I think 1941, there was a pogrom there. It was organised by locals who murdered a section of the Jewish community, and this was a big scandal sort of thing when a book was published around 2000. I was in Archiv Marknowich in 2006 2007, I think it was. There were notes from Yudvab, and I was really surprised to see I was the first person who've actually used them. So it wasn't such a major thing for so long, but undoubtedly it was organised by locals who were that pogrom. Białe Brzegi. There's a couple of Białe Brzegis, but I think this is the one which is in central Poland now. That's another attractive place. There was an old bridge there which I really liked travelling over. So got rid of it now. Skierniewice. Skierniewice is located to the west of Warsaw. It's quite a large place, and on this trip now, in 2 months ago, I was filming along the Rawa River, and the things from the First World War. So I was there, spent a night there. I can't tell you much about the Jewish population. And Błędów. Now this for me is really odd. I lived in Błędów. It's a tiny place. I was surprised it even had a stone here. Now I had a nearby place, Mogilnica, yes, which has also got a stone here, which I knew a little bit of the Jewish history of, but that Błędów should have it. I was living there. I didn't know there was a Jewish community from there. Anyway, I was working on juice production. Maków Mazowiecki, which is the north of Warsaw. I came across a report also of locals murdering Jews in Maków as well. Although, I mean, it was like 2000. It was well over 20 years ago anyway. I never followed it up. And here's Małkinia. The Jewish population of Małkinia was numbered in the hundreds. In Shoa, there's the driver, the engine driver who lived in Małkinia. He talked about that in Polish, for those, he said that they lived in the region of Ulica Norska, which must be to the east of the town. I looked up the numbers, but it was in the hundreds. There was somebody else even said made up 50% of all the Jews there, but I don't think that is actually correct. Drzewica. Now here, there's more names over there where we were. Here, I can't understand now the logic. We've got much less places with names on them over here. I said I got the impression they hadn't thought about it. Szczekocina. And when they did it, but they said no, it was all laid out and they were all planned before. And Rawa Mazowiecka. There is Brock. Brock is it's a town to the approximately 15 kilometers to the west of here, on the River Bug. A very attractive place, I think. About 1,700 people live there. Before the war, there's more people living before the war, about 1/3 of whom were Jewish. The cemetery in Brock, I think, is very well preserved, and one can go in. It's not one of these places which is locked up, as is often the case. Oh, there is Legionowo, which is to the east of Warsaw. Actually, I could have prepared this better. Actually, when I think about it, I could have made a little speech on places and then come and give a little history. Anyway, I didn't. Just speaking off the top of my head. I had this aim. I still have this aim. I'd want to actually record as many ghettos as possible. Indeed, 20 years ago I tried to get some funding to do that, but the cost of getting the funding was so great it just wasn't it wasn't worth it. Shenno. Don't know where that is. Opatów. Now, Samuel Willenberg was from Opatów. At least that was where he was staying. He was from Częstochowa, but he said that he went to Opatów after the deaths of his sisters. His sisters were brought here and they were murdered. Indeed, when he was here and he was sorting clothes, he believed he found the clothes of his sisters locked together in an embrace, as he put it. And the ghetto in Opatów was liquidated in October of 1942. I went there 8 years ago and I walked around the streets of the ghetto, and you can still see some of the buildings. If I'll put a link below if somebody reminds me to do it, because I'll certainly forget. Kotsk, I thought we just went past Kotsk over there. There is Żanów, Błonie, that's to the west of Warsaw. Mielnik, over there, that is near it's in Świętokrzyski region, the south of Kielce. Now, why is nobody here? It's because it's after the closing time for the things. This is open all the time, of course, but the office, the museum part's closed, and I thought of doing this in the morning when nobody would be around. Then why not come now and have a walk around, see how many. The monument itself is enormous, but let's face it, 900,000 lives lost in this place, and the topography has completely changed. Right, I don't know how I'm going to do this one. I'll just sort of walk in and out. And now, I noticed earlier that many of the places here are now in to the east. So they're now in Ukraine, or in Belarus, or in Lithuania. Well, Pszytyk isn't, nor Parysów, Lipsko nad Wisłą, Sandomierz. Sandomierz is an exceptionally attractive town. It's the largest place in Poland I haven't been to. There's Kosówlacki. There was a ghetto in Kosówlacki, and which I went to film yesterday. And Kosówlacki, that is the place where the parents of Jack Ruby, the one who shot Lee Harvey Oswald, came from. Because in the Warren Commission they said they came from Sokołów, but they weren't. They were from Kosówlacki. Skarżysko-Kamienne. I was on the television. I said the ugliest place in Poland is Skarżysko-Kamienne. 3 weeks later, I met the mayor at a totally different event. Anyway, the mayor invited me down, and he showed me what they had some plans where the ghetto had been in Skarżysko, and what they wanted to actually do to make it interesting for tourists. Well, that was down there 20 years ago. I ought to go back and do something. Młode Paganów. Klimontów. I went another place I've been to. I videoed the history of the Jews of Klimontów, and it's something me speaking largely off the top of my head again. But that's another link I'll post. Klimontów, it's in the Kielce region again. Łysków, don't know where that is. So write down what you think of this monument, because for me, I quite like it as it is, but I do appreciate that the way it mightn't appeal to everyone. Now, for example, with all these stones down here, because to me the stones represent people, and it's not known where they come from, or these communities which might not be represented here. Of course, in those days, Jews tend to live together. Well, not just Jews, but everybody, I suppose, who's got their own sort of area. So they had the idea of coming together like that. Ożarów. Now, most of the people from Ożarów were sent to no, sorry, I was going to say Hamlin. No, Ożarów near Warsaw. No, they're sent here. Sorry. That's what happens when you don't prepare things, you see. I think this population of Ożarów was sent to the ghetto in Warsaw. I've noticed that some stones as well seem to be falling or about to fall. Oh, there's another one that seems to be. Having said that, they've been here for 40 years, so I suppose they would have the right to do so. In Berlin, they've got these big blocks representing communities, but with no names on them, and I think that is. I don't like it. The Holocaust Museum in Warsaw. Somebody said about it'd be like to be used as a toilet because it's sort of, you can sort of nip into it and then do whatever you have to do and come out again. And that's part of how I feel. It looks a bit like that. It's supposed to be a maze. Also, the location of it. It's a huge place. Of course, I mean, it stands on buildings where the former Hermann Göring Strasse. It's bang next to the Reichstag. It's got it's well, it couldn't be much more central, and it really stands out from its location. When I was there, there was always a queue to get into the museum. I didn't even get in there. The exhibition. Pruzane, Świśloci, Częstochowa. Częstochowa had an enormous or very large Jewish population as well. Częstochowa was on the border between Tsarist Russia, occupied Poland, and Germany, and then it was on the border between Poland and Germany. And Częstochowa, most noted, of course, because where the Black Madonna is, which appears in just about every Polish church, or Catholic church anyway. Częstochowa, there was also armed resistance. So there's also armed resistance in Będzin as well. I think most of the Jews from Będzin were sent to Auschwitz. It's another thing also because the way Nazis organised things. So you have there Częstochowa, which, because it was in the general government, the Jews were sent here to be murdered, even though Auschwitz was quicker, and possibly passing Jews coming the other way who were being sent to Auschwitz because of administrative borders. Mroze, Grodzisk Mazowieckie, that's just south of Warsaw. Latowicz, I don't know what that is. There's Mnishew. I think having a little bit unkempt like this sort of adds to it. Marianów, Siecianów. I don't know either of those places now. Nor do I know where Policzna is. Nowe Miasto nad Policą. I think I might have a video from that. I do have a video from that place. Filmed years ago. Łowicz. In Łowicz, the ghetto is the buildings in the ghetto in Łowicz are to a large extent still there, which it makes it, I think, somewhat interesting, in my opinion. Over there we have Pinchów, and a friend of mine, who died in 2012 in the United States, but I did promise sister that I would go to the cemetery there and put a candle for her. Now, the grandmother, who was an Auschwitz survivor, sorry, she was still alive in 2012, because my friend who died, she saw the day that she died. She sent me an email and I didn't respond, and it's just not the reason why she died, but 3 weeks later she was dead. Siedlce, close to here. Large town. Minsk Mazowiecki. Minsk Mazowiecki, in 1936 there was actually there was a pogrom, and quite a lot of damage was done. I can't remember the state in human lives what happened. Góra Kalwaria, just the south of Warsaw, noted for the tzaddiks who came from there, the learning, the Jewish learning from the place. Wawer, that's to the southeast of Warsaw. Tłuszt, Konski, Świętokrzyska region, Solec nad Wisłą, Koniecpol. And maybe I ought to come down here in the place I should have started. Here we have a symbolic area where there was a pyre. There was probably 3 pyres here at Treblinka, and you can see the size and some of the reports of the people who worked on them, and everybody for kilometres around. Here's something curious about this now. Bodies were buried here and they started burning them end of 42, beginning of 43. But there was another, down at the corner here, there was a place they called the Lazaret. It had a Red Cross flag outside. Lazaret means something like field hospital, something like that. But there, the bodies were burnt even from the very beginning. Not just the bodies, but anything was burnt. So that was the rubbish that turned up, things that they wanted to get rid of, papers and whatever else they might have wanted to destroy. And but the bodies were also burnt. Now today I read a horrendous account from somebody. He was here for only 17 days in August, September of 42, and it was a lady. He was forced to SS asked him to carry this lady out of, sort of whipped him once to get his attention, and told him to take a lady out and take her to the Lazaret. And the SS person who was supposed to shoot them, he'd gone off for lunch. So this lady was sat seeing these bodies, the flames, the burning, waiting there at the side. She was couldn't walk, and she was waiting to be killed. Utterly horrendous. These Dante-esque accounts that we have from here. I shall show you up here a little bit as well, because I think I started down there and walked to come up here and see some of the places. There we have Przemysl. Przemysl's on the south-eastern border. Today, most of the people from Przemysl were murdered at Bełżec. There is a case, though, of the Wehrmacht commander, a major battle, and he, on hearing of the planned liquidation of the ghetto, he actually stopped it happening. He used his troops to deny the SS access to the ghetto. I think that is something which is definitely worth talking about in more detail. Radoszyce, Nowy Korczyn. see the monument as well. You've got the menorah there. See, these stones don't have names on, which looks really a bit odd. Uyazd, Uja. Yedlinsk. Otvotsk is... At Otvotsk, there were... the ghetto had 4 parts, and I was trying to map out where the ghetto was in Otvotsk in 2010, never finished it. And it's quite strange because Otvotsk was a resort area before the war. It was like a spa for people who went from Warsaw. The Otvotsk ghetto had it was a place where people did try to get to. The conditions there appear to have been slightly better. A friend of mine actually found a what do you call it? I can't remember the word in English. Where there's the list of who owns what land, the property, whatever that is in English. I've forgotten the word for it now. But anyway, he found one of these, an original copy. The value of that is that it showed what land belonged to whom before the 1939 invasion. Therefore, if anybody tried to reclaim property, I mean, I appreciate that after nearly 90 years, it's not like, but it is impossible. It is possible, and that would be evidence. Mszczonów is to the south of Warsaw. Big Europa Park, big distribution centres there now. There's Żeradów, industrial town. Some of the red brick buildings of it from the 19th century industrial areas. It makes a really attractive place to see. Tarłów, Bojanów, Wodzisław, Staszów, Wolanów. Here we have some Janusz Korczak, Henryk Goldschmidt and the children, i dzieci. And he ran, Janusz Korczak. He was very well known before the war. In fact, it was even said that when he was about to be deported, he was one of the people who German soldiers knew who he was and said he didn't have to go. And he said, "Well, what about the children?" And they said, "No, they have to go." And so I said, "Well, he's going as well." The children were the children from his orphanage in Ulica Krochmalna, where I used to live, in the centre of Warsaw. So as an author, he was known before then. He was said to have said that he should never hit a child, and so he had these very would be today quite modern ideas about how to treat children. He also was noted for his sense of humour. I've seen some thing written by other people about his cutting sense of humour. Anyway, so he died. There's a film by Andrzej Wajda, which I think is very good, on him. Anyway, I don't know. I think though, people should get the individual stone. It's either you put everybody's name up or nobody's goes up, and so anyway. Bojentin, I don't know what that is. Marki is located to just as you come out of Warsaw, heading towards Białystok, and Marki is the big shopping centre is on the right. So, I think I've now taken you around. So let's just have a quick finish by having a look at this. The sign up in 6 languages: Yiddish, Russian, English, French, German, Polish, and Hebrew. See, I've read that from right to left. And because the first language was Yiddish, I started reading from right to left. I don't. Anyway. So if you've come with me this far, I don't know. It's about the personal account I'm sort of giving there. maybe one day I'll be able to go to all of these. Well, maybe not, but I'd like to be able to think that one day I could go to a lot of these places and sort of do my bit to remember the people who once lived there. I think that is giving people back their names is part of it, and at least this gives them back their communities, so to speak. Just say a few words about Poland. Visiting a place like this, I do appreciate this isn't for everybody. I spent 3 days here, but I'm really into this type of thing. I'm sort of very about the Holocaust. Obviously, this is monumental, and it's very difficult to get an idea. But if you follow this track down here, the first Treblinka camp was set up in 1941, and that was a penal camp based around a gravel pit, or sometimes I call it a quarry. And the quarry itself is pretty large, and anyway, so that's down there. That actually, the camp there's actually more to see than there is here. These are places for which people came. Macedonia, which I think is a new site, Greece, Austria, Germany, Bulgaria. Poland's got the biggest one, but most of the victims were from Poland anyway. Czechoslovakia, France, Yugoslavia, Soviet Union, and Belgium. And this is the station, so to speak. With this as a monumental part, I do have a slight problem, only ever so slight problem, but the station, the false station that was built at Treblinka, was built at the end of 1942. So it wasn't here when most victims were here. There was a railway line coming in, yes, but there wasn't the false station that people came to. And if it's accepted that the gas chambers were more or less, well, that's slightly to the right here, but so people would come off the trains, then they go through an area. Let's go down to the map, and that will maybe talk a little bit easier. Easier maybe to understand than me pointing at things. Does anybody know what that bird is? I can't recognise it. So we've got a diagram here, and this will give us some information. Now it's not orientated. It's orientated in the same way as we're standing, but never mind. So train comes in here. So as the train comes in here, people come off at the reception area, and then what they do, they were forced into here. There was these barracks. That there's a well, yes, there's a well, and then forced to run through here. Gas chambers. There were the first lot of gas chambers proved not to be efficient enough, and the second gas chambers were here. And there's the pyres. Where the bodies, the people were open. It was 10 chambers here, and the doors and the bodies were pulled out. And initially they were buried, but later they were put onto the pyres. I've done a separate video on the destruction of the bodies. This bit here says living area. Here, so that would be for the guards, and also that there was the commandant's headquarters and things of that nature. And this part here, that is for the working, the slave labourers who were working here. Other things, but are huge stores here as well. Maybe I ought to do a separate video on that. And the so-called lazaret, which I pointed out earlier, is here. So there was a Red Cross flag there, and people they were brought in here and they were shot there. And this here is that's a toilet. The trains were sent to Treblinka railway station, which is about 4.5 kilometres from here, something like that, and they brought in 20 at a time. Now a train could have as many as 80 wagons to it. Something I found out recently was that the wagons weren't all the same size. So I thought they were standardised, but it turns out that there's various types. And so what they would do is they bring in 20 because they thought that was the amount of people they could kill in one go. Of course, it depended on the how many people were actually loaded to each wagon, but sometimes they were packed in like in the underground system, for example in rush hour, and at other times there was more sitting room for people and things like that within the wagon. Also, the train sizes varied, and so a question might be, so what happened if there were 25 wagons and not 20? And in that case, I don't know what the answer is. I presume, though, it's because you can only fit 20 in here. So if we have the gate into the death camp being somewhere around here, because this only marks the approximate border of the camp, then that would come in, and then there wasn't the space for it. So that's why they left things at the Treblinka station. I mean, at Treblinka station also some dreadfully harrowing accounts of what happened there. I think actually what I'll do is I will actually read one or two of these accounts. I know I haven't got the best voice in the world for reading, but I've got no one else to do it for me. And then I mean, they're really horrendous. The things that happened there, the utter descent of humankind into this Dante-esque hell that was produced here. Now, here in this area, after World War II, after the when they stopped murdering people here, the trees were planted. They planted some flowers there, and this was handed over as a farmhouse for one of the staff, the guards. He was Ukrainian, and the idea being, I think, that they wanted to pretend that nothing had ever happened here. Now, there were some trees when this was a death camp, but not many. Most of this is grown since the war, and you can see from photographs, from aerial photographs, how the camp got large. How the trees, amount of trees, was more and more trees. So the trees have reconquered the area. Normally we see the tree-like amount of forested area in declining. And this is here. There's more and more in Shoah as well. For example, Landsman's then he's talking to the farmers, and they say that there wasn't the trees then, but since Shoah was made, since he was in the late 70s, and now there's even more trees. So it's quite a lot. But in Shoah, for example, we have the situation that Landsman's asking, how could you work when people are being murdered over there? I'm now paraphrasing, he didn't quite put it that way, and he's clearly quite, if you look at the outtakes, because this question comes up several times, how did you feel about it? And how come he's quite incredulous that they were allowed to work with the activities of the death camp going on. This, I think, just does go to show that this was no secret. It was quite clear, And we have the situation, for example, even Landsman asks this a couple of times as well about the prostitutes who came here as far away from Warsaw, and the train driver from Malkinia says that these women went above all to Vulka or Kronglik, and they would come here for a couple of weeks, and then they would be rotated around. These things here, these tank traps, which were around the camp, have actually, and they do appear in Samuel Willenberg's book, Revolt in Treblinka. They were being found very, very recently. Indeed, I was talking to the security guard here today, and he told me he remembered from school, and it turned out that there was something like that at his school. He'd be, I suppose, about the same age as I am. So he went to school 40 plus years ago, and then he never thought twice about it. But the archaeological work that's gone on here, and more stuff has been found, and so I think that is quite important indeed. There's a little story here at Treblinka 1 2 days ago. I thought somebody, mustn't have had my eyes and my glasses on or something. I thought somebody had a groundbreaking radar and they were doing something. Turned out it was somebody with a pram. So, anyway, it's a little walk around Treblinka, and it was a big walk. So I hope you found that interesting. Please bear in mind I'm talking off the top of my head. If I've made any mistakes in anything I've said, I will correct it by putting a comment. There'll be a pinned comment to say it's this point I said that, or maybe contrary to what I said in the video. These are the facts, something along those lines. But I've done lots of videos from here. Holocaust is my specialist area in history. So if you want to know more, then you might want to subscribe. But for the moment, from me in Treblinka, all the best. And as I come through these trees, I have my vehicle is there. Oh, look, I'm the only one here. No one else. Everybody's gotten home. So the security's still here, though, I know that. Anyway, so there's my vehicle. I live in a motorhome, travelling largely between Poland and Germany. So that's what you get, the information from these countries. And for the moment, thanks very much, and all the best from me here in Poland. Yeah, I'll show you me opening the door with the keys. No, I'll need two hands. Never mind. Thanks for watching.